Attorney General Jeff Sessions says the FBI needs a, quote, fresh start after 2 years of constant controversies and scandals. A new Reuters poll showing the uphill battle ahead for Sessions. 73% of Republicans now believe members of the FBI and Department of Justice are working to delegitimize Trump through politically motivated investigations. Joining me now is Tom Dupree, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General under George W. Bush. Good to see you again, Tom. So,
good evening.
When you were at the Justice Department, did it have political overtones? Did you see political bias make its way into the way that the organization was run?
You know, I didn't. And in fact, all this has been somewhat of a surprise to me when I was there, and I think it's still true today. 99.9% of DOJ and FBI employees are nonpartisan, by the book, law and order types. And I got to say, when I saw those poll numbers, I was absolutely heartsick. The Republican Party historically has been a strong supporter of law enforcement. Right. That's the Republican brand.
That's right.
That was one of the reasons, you know, why I'm a Republican, because I am a strong supporter of our nation's law enforcement agencies.
The flip side,
the
flip side of that is true as well. I think most people in the Department of Justice, and certainly in the FBI, do tend to be more conservative than liberal. It's just that I think most bureaucrats, people who are there who have a more political orientation or who have done nothing but work for the government their whole life, have a tendency to be more liberal. So it's the appointees that are the focus, the appointees who become permanent bureaucrats that are focus of attention, no?
I agree that it's the political appointees that I think in many cases are responsible for driving this perception. But I will tell you, it is funny. When I served in the Justice Department, I would spend time trying to persuade my liberal friends that law enforcement is nonpartisan, they're neutral, they're serious people. I don't know if I persuaded my liberal friends, but now I'm trying to persuade my conservative friends of the same thing. I think you put your finger on it, and that I think a lot of the reason why we are where we are today is because of the actions of some political appointees. I do think it's a narrow band. I don't think the problem is endemic throughout law enforcement in the United States, and I'm heartened to see that the new leadership of DOJ and the FBI is taking the issue seriously and is committed to reversing this trend.
Well, and, you know, frankly, I've known enough about the military to know how that works. There are members of the military. Some generals become generals because of their hard-earned medals in combat. Some generals, frankly, go up the rank because they know how to kiss butt better. I mean, I hate to be so crude, but that's the way it works in a lot of things, including the military. And our crew member who was in the military is agreeing with me. So it depends on the type of person. But what we have seen, let's focus more on the memo now. What we have seen from the Republican memo, it makes it absolutely clear. Is there any shadow of a doubt that the FBI and DOJ were politicized?
Well, let me say this. When you read the Nunes memo, there's no question that the charges it makes are extremely serious. I mean, when you are accusing our law enforcement officials of essentially misleading a federal judge, I mean, that's, you know, about as serious as it gets.
Yes.
Now, in fairness, I was very supportive of the release of the Democrats' rebuttal memo, which I imagine we're going to see in the next few days.
Every Republican voted to release it.
I was very happy to see that because from my perspective, the critical question here is to put everything in context. I think the Republican memo, as I said, it made a very strong case. But as any prosecutor will tell you, you don't want to render a final judgment until you've heard the defense, until you've heard the other side. So I'm anxiously awaiting that.
You don't want to render a final judgment until you've seen the evidence. And, of course, that's the thing that the FISA court didn't demand from the FBI when they saw about the Trump dossier. They didn't demand the underlying evidence that Steele and the others who created the report didn't offer in the dossier itself. And that was inexcusable on the part of the judge and the FISA judge, I think.
Well, and the thing here is that, to my mind, the critical question is that it's not so much the giving of information that may have had a political taint, but the question is whether there was sufficient and adequate disclosure of the origin of that material. Because, look, judges get material that's tainted all the time. Witnesses cannot be credible. They might have biases, motives, all sorts of things. Judges can deal with that if they are made aware of it. And so that, to my mind, is the critical question here is what did this judge know and what was he or she presented
with? Well, right
with?
now, the American people are the judge. We are the judge of the FBI, the Justice Department, and the FISA court. We deserve to see the evidence. It's that simple, no?
I agree with one caveat. The caveat is national security, and I don't want to compromise sources' intelligence methods.
Well, that could be redacted.
Yeah, it may be redacted. And look, I suspect that the Democrats' memo is going to have to be heavily redacted precisely for that reason. But subject to that qualification, I agree. At this point in time, we're in a situation where full transparency, I think, is the best way to go.